How's it going, everyone? My name is True Wonder Dog, and today I wanted to share my roster predictions for Mortal Kombat 11, especially since the big reveal is only a couple days away and Warner Brothers was generous enough to let me be a part of it. I'm very grateful, and I honestly can't wait to get some awesome gameplay footage for you all to see once I'm there, but until then, let's have some fun with these roster predictions. So basically, I created this big custom image with all my predictions on it, but I'm only going to show one row at a time to keep things interesting, and each row does fall into a certain category. So for example, in this first row we have the confirmed characters. These characters were either revealed directly or leaked at some point in time. So let's go ahead and run down this list real quick. So we have Scorpion and Dark Raiden right off the bat. They were revealed in the initial trailer, so we know for sure that they're in there. And then we had Shao Kahn, who was revealed to be a pre-order bonus, so he's confirmed as well. And then we have Sub-Zero and Liu Kang, who were both leaked, so we know they're going to be in the game as well. And I put Katana up here being a bit cheeky because I think we know that if Liu Kang is confirmed, then so is Katana as well. They're both the king and queen of the Netherrealm, it's pretty certain they're both going to be in there. And that's about it for the first row, so next let's move on to the second row, which is by far the biggest, and that's because this row is all the characters who I think are very likely to be in the game, so they're basically all but confirmed. So first up we have all the remaining Ninja Boys, right? We have Ermac and Reptile. The only one that I'm not sure about is Rain, so I put him in a different category, but I'm going to put Noob Saibot in this row as well. I'd be very surprised if Noob did not turn up to be in the game. A lot of fans have been requesting him, and I think they're waiting to do something pretty crazy with him. I'm not sure if he's going to keep that playstyle he had in MK9 where he duplicates himself with Shadow Clone Jutsu. I'm not sure if he's going to keep that element of his gameplay, but I am very excited to see him return in Mortal Kombat 11. I'd be shocked if he wasn't in there. Same goes for Reptile and Ermac. And for Ermac personally, I kinda wish he'd go back to being more of a fighter and not so much a magician. I think some people probably did like that aspect of him. I liked that he floated around, but I didn't like that he came off kinda dainty. I liked how in the past games he was like just this physical force. He was super strong. It was implied he's very powerful, just physically, let alone telekinesis, right? He can punch you in the face and like tear your head off your shoulders. I kind of miss that aspect of him. And then of course we have Melina. If Melina's not in the game, I'm gonna be very sad. I hope she returns in some way, shape, or form. Some people in the comments were joking and saying she's gonna come back as a cyborg. I really hope that's not the case, unless she keeps her personality. If she keeps the personality, then fine. But I think she's honestly much better the way she is, and I wouldn't be against her coming back as a cyborg as long as she's still Melina. I just really love her playstyle. She's so much fun, she's fast, she's vicious, has that ferocity, all the things I love in a character. And then right after her and Noob Saibot we have Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade. I honestly do think both these characters will be in the game. Some people have said that Cassie Cage might replace one of them, and I could see that happening, but honestly keep in mind these are legacy characters. They've been around since the very first game, so I'd be very shocked if they weren't in the sequel. So while it is possible for Cassie Cage to take up one of their spots, I'd be very surprised if that did happen. And then right next to them we have Jax. Now, as for Jax, some people say that Jackie Briggs could take his spot. That is much more likely in my opinion, but if they do go that route, I hope they make Jackie a lot more aggressive and a grappler, similar to Jax, because I always liked how Jax grabbed you and just manhandled the crap out of you. Whether it's Jackie Briggs or Jax, I hope they bring that grapple element to the game, because I really do love it that much. And if there was a legacy character who was replaced by a new character, I think Jax has a strong possibility of being replaced by Jackie Briggs. Although I'm not sure, it's about 50-50 honestly if that's going to happen or not. I just don't see them both being in the game. However, two characters that I do see both being in the game are Sector and Cyrax. I think we are going to get both of these characters. I'm not sure if we're going to get their human forms or not, but I would be surprised if Sector and Cyrax weren't in this game. I think in Mortal Kombat 11, with the introduction of time travel, bringing back a lot of the core fan favorite characters is going to be a big goal for the developers. I think NetherRealm wants to bring back all the favorite faces, all the familiar faces to get people hype and excited. So I'd be very surprised if the cyborgs weren't in this game right off the bat. And next up we have Kung Lao, because how are you going to leave out Kung Lao? Kung Lao's just really cool. I don't see them omitting him. And they have Liu Kang, so not including Kung Lao would be a bit odd. However, I would love, this is a fan theory of mine, I would love if Kung Lao gets turned good and is actually the one to fight and defeat Liu Kang. That would be really cool to me because he's always been the second favorite, the second best. So for him to finally be the hero and to feel that success of being the warrior that saved the planet like he's always wanted, That would be really cool, but at the same time bittersweet, because he achieves that goal by fighting his best friend, and probably his role model too, Liu Kang. So I think from a story perspective that would be really cool. And then right behind him we have Kano. I'm honestly not a huge fan of Kano. I'd probably be a bit more on board if they really push that cyborg factor, like really push the cybernetic aspect of his character. Don't make him like Cyrax or Sector, but just make him very cybernetic, like Darth Vader level cybernetic. Don't cover his face in a helmet or anything, but just give him crazy level amounts of robotic technology on his body. That'd be really cool, I think. And even though he's certainly not one of my favorite characters, in fact he might be one of my least favorite characters, I still can't see him not being in a Mortal Kombat game because once again he is a legacy character. And the same goes for the next one, right? Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung is definitely coming back, I think we all know that for sure. I don't expect Quan Chi to come back, though that could be possible due to time travel, but I think Shang Tsung is someone people have been missing a lot. Shang Tsung in MK9 somehow managed to make projectile spamming cool, right? He made zoning look really fun and enjoyable, and his combos were pretty fun actually. He was an enjoyable character to use, so I wouldn't mind him keeping that exact same playstyle in Mortal Kombat 11, only a little bit stronger. And then last but not least we have Fujin. I know a lot of people have been wanting Fujin. I want to see him too. I've never played him before in the past games, but I understand that even so, many people miss him and they want him to be in the game. Not to mention he was teased really hard in Mortal Kombat X and they just never got to have him. To be fair though, a lot of characters were teased in Mortal Kombat X, and I think a lot of them are going to carry over into MK11. Some of which aren't even on this row. I still included them in other categories, and I still think they might return. I just didn't include them in this exact row because these characters are like guaranteed. I don't see these characters not being in the game whatsoever. I think pretty much all these characters are pretty assuredly in the game, and I'd be remiss if they weren't. I'm not a gambling man, but even I would put down some cold hard cash that each one of these characters will be in the game. And that's it for row 2. Once again, the characters who I think will be in the game, but they haven't been confirmed necessarily yet. So next, let's move on to the third row. Now this third row is my personal wish list. Now it's not to say these characters don't have a high likelihood of being in the game, I think they most certainly do, but at the same time NetherRealm could exclude any one of them to make way for some new characters as well, which is why I didn't put them in row 2. They just don't have that legacy factor, or maybe not enough of a fan following. Stuff like that is why they weren't in row 2, but I still do personally want to see them in the game. So first up we have Jade. I think Jade honestly will be in the game. I'm just not 100% certain, but if she's not, I'd be shocked. I definitely want to see her come back, and not just as Katana's variation. Don't get me wrong, it was nice they included that because they didn't have to. They could have just scrapped her from the game entirely, but thankfully her spirit kind of lived on in that one variation, and I was very grateful for that. It was also a pretty dang solid variation too, one of the better ones in my opinion for Katana. So I do think Jade will come back in Mortal Kombat 11, and I don't think they're gonna do what a lot of people were thinking from MK9 where she comes back as a different looking character who's like possessed her body. I don't think that's gonna happen. With the combination of time travel and being able to resurrect people, I think she's just gonna come back as regular Jade. That's what I think. She could also be Revenant Jade, but I think we're gonna get regular human Jade. And if that's the case, once again, fan theory, I would love if she's the one to take down evil Katana. Once again, because she's always been like diet Katana, right? Everyone knows Katana, and then Jade's kind of like secondary to a lot of people. Not for me personally, I've always preferred Jade, but she's always kind of been in Katana's shadow. So if she was the one to actually take down Katana, that would be super sick to me, and I would love that from a story standpoint. So next up we have Frost. Once again a character who I think is very likely to be in Mortal Kombat 11 because she was teased a lot in MKX, right? And in the comics a lot too. Which, by the way, developers, if she is in Mortal Kombat 11, can you please give us that UFC gear that she had? That was so hot. That was pretty sexy. I would love to see that come back in Mortal Kombat 11 as a gear option. That looked pretty slick, I'm not gonna lie. She looked pretty cool. And since Frost was not killed in the MKX story and then actively not killed in the comics, I think she has a high chance of being in MK11, plus she's a fan favorite too. And then we have my boy Rain. I'm not sure why I like Rain. I think it's because he's an underdog and he's not very beloved. I think he's cool. And in MK9, he was okay. He was a very good character competitively. He had some crazy high damage. It was a bit tricky to pull off because you had to line the bubble up exactly to get the damage to work correctly. But once you did, he got like 40 to 50% damage for one combo. So he was very good from a competitive standpoint, but I feel like watching him, he looked kinda goofy because he would just spray water in your face and that somehow did damage. So I hope if they do bring him back that he feels more aggressive, like his water is actually hurting you, like tearing through your skin. I want it to feel like he's actually doing damage with water, not just tickling you or spraying it in your face and annoying you. Although sadly, I do think Rain is the least likely to appear in the game of anyone else in this row. I think he has a very low chance just because he was in Mortal Kombat X. He wasn't playable, but he was there. So there is a chance they might skip over him in MK11, and they might. And next up we have Kenshi. I love Kenshi, he's a great zoner, I think he fits that role very well, and I think he was criminally underused in MKX. He's such an interesting character, and he's also kind of underutilized in the comics too. Though everyone in the comic is pretty fleshed out, believe it or not. It's actually a very good read, I recommend it. Every character, even people like Melina who seem very paper thin, in the comics they're very developed and it's quite interesting. However, in the actual game, not so much. So I hope in MK11 Kenshi has a bit more of a story to tell, and I hope you can actually play as him this time too, because he's very fun to play as. And then we have Nightwolf. I really hope Nightwolf comes back. If he doesn't, they may use a new character with the same playstyle as him. I think that's very likely. And that would be okay too, I feel like, but I just want someone to have that ability to summon weapons and call on spirits. I think it's very cool that he can do that. He makes his own weapons out of thin air. That's super sick. I love it. And his design is really cool too. He's this big hulkish character. I like characters like that, and I do miss Nightwolf a lot, so I hope he comes back. Now they could skip over him, but if they do that, I think we'll play as his descendant or relative of some kind. I really doubt there won't be any sort of Nightwolf playstyle in Mortal Kombat 11. And then we have Kabal. Not much to say here really, he's a fan favorite, a lot of people miss him, and if he wasn't in the game people would be upset. I like Kabal a lot too. I think he perfectly capitalizes he encapsulates what makes Mortal Kombat so great, because he's brutal in a sense, because he has these really deadly and aggressive looking weapons, but at the same time he's goofy because he does this little pose, and then he runs past you like Sonic the Hedgehog and makes you spin, and it looks really silly, but at the same time he's cutting you up. It's gory and gruesome, but also funny at the same time, and kind of cheeky, you know, it's like tongue-in-cheek, and I love that. I think Kabal is like the perfect Mortal Kombat character in that regard. Not to mention the writers did a fantastic job making him sympathetic in MK9, so I'd love to see them expand on that in Mortal Kombat 11. I don't want him to stay a Revenant. I want him to come back and play a good role in the story mode. And then we have Scarlet. I made an entire video on Scarlet, a lot of you might have seen it by now. It breaks down why I think she'll be in Mortal Kombat 11, not just because of what happens in the comics, but because she has such an awesome origin and a pretty good fan following. A lot of people have been requesting her, so I think putting her in Mortal Kombat 11 would be nothing but positives from the community. She might show up as a DLC character, though that would be a bit odd since she already was once a DLC character. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't see her not being in Mortal Kombat 11 just because she's so popular and she's so unique in terms of what she does. She manipulates blood and she gets more powerful by consuming blood. So I think all that stuff combined makes her very likely to appear in Mortal Kombat 11, and if she does, I hope she plays a pretty big role in the story mode. Or at the very least just a few lines of dialogue so we know what she actually sounds like. And then for these last three, I'm not sure they're going to be in the game at all. They're definitely ones that I want to be in the game for sure. Once again, this entire row is like my own wish list. But if anybody was to be excluded, I think it would be these three. So first up we have Smoke, or it could also be Hydro, right? I think Smoke is the most likely. He could also be a ninja form too. No one could be sure, right? Or a Revenant. He could be in any number of forms he could show up, right? Sorry, I'm stumbling a bit here. But Smoke could show up somehow. But I think it's more likely he might just be an AI character that you fight against. And that'd be very sad if so, but I could see that as a possibility. However, if he does show up, that would be very, very cool. And then we have Serena. I'm not sure why I want Serena to be in the game as much as I do, because I never played her in past games. I think I just like her character design a lot, and I also know that when it comes to the lore of Mortal Kombat, she plays a pretty big role in it. She knew Bi-Han, she worked for Quan Chi at one point, she betrayed him, so it's pretty fascinating how large of a role she actually has in the Mortal Kombat story, so I'd like to see her actually be playable. And then last but not least we have Li Mei. So this one is very personal for me. I just want to see Li Mei be in the game because she was teased in MKX, and her costume design didn't look very good because of the lighting, but if you look at the actual concept art here, it looks kind of cool. And I like Li Mei because she was kind of like the female Liu Kang. She was a straight up martial artist, and that was pretty cool because a lot of the female characters in this game, they use weapons, right? But not Li Mei. She just kicked you in the face and did martial arts, and it was pretty cool. However, outside of that, I don't have any other reason why she'd be in the game except that she was teased in Mortal Kombat X, and because I'd like to see her in the game because she fits that kind of playstyle of a female hand-to-hand combat, no weapons, and I find that pretty interesting. And that's about it for row 3, so next let's move on to the final row, and it's pretty small. Now this row is the new characters who were introduced in Mortal Kombat X, who I think have a strong likelihood of returning for Mortal Kombat 11. So first up we have Kotal Kahn. I think he is the most likely to be in Mortal Kombat 11 because for one thing he plays a very large role in the story mode. He is the new Khan of Outworld, right? I can't see them excluding him unless you kill him off screen, but that'd be kind of weird. I think he has a high chance of being in the game, plus his playstyle was very unique, and I'd love to see them actually expand and improve on it because it was pretty dang interesting, and of course he's also a grappler and I love that. And then we have Takeda. I think Takeda also has a pretty cool story relevance, right? He's basically Hanzo's new son. He's Scorpion's second chance at being a father, and you can see that reflected in his playstyle. Now, my only request is they remove the goofy mechanism on his back. It looked kinda cool at first, but then it's kinda ridiculous to think about how he needs that to be a fighter. I don't see why he couldn't just throw the coils out of his sleeve like Scorpion does, or out of his gauntlet. I don't see why he couldn't just do that. Having the giant mechanism on his back feels a bit goofy, but I did love how he fought, and I loved his playstyle in general. And then we have Cassie Cage. Once again, as mentioned earlier, she could replace Sonya or Johnny Cage on the roster, but I don't see that happening, and I honestly don't see the developers dropping her from the game completely because they invested so much into her story-wise. She was the one to beat Shinnok. She inherited the crazy power that Johnny Cage had, which lets her beat Elder Gods essentially. So even though a lot of people don't like her, I don't see the developers dropping her because she's such an essential character at this point. And next up we have Jacqui Briggs. Now Jacqui Briggs was a bit infamous in Mortal Kombat X because she was very spammy online, and even at tournaments, like her projectiles could win the game, just like Deathstroke. And just like Deadshot, people were very frustrated by that. So hopefully in Mortal Kombat 11, if she is in there, they make her a bit more of an in-your-face kind of character, more aggressive, like her shotgun style. That shotgun variation was a lot of fun. I wish she was more like that in Mortal Kombat 11. Now unfortunately, I could see Jacqui omitted from the game entirely if they choose Jax, and then if she's in the game, I see them using her instead of Jax. However, if their movesets are similar enough, maybe you could unlock a costume that is just Jax, but you're playing as Jacqui, and it would still make sense because their attacks are so similar. That could happen. It'd be a bit weird, but I could see that happening. And then last but not least, we have D'Vorah. D'Vorah, I feel like, has enough of a fan following, and she was very important in the comics, and very important in the story mode too. She was very, very powerful, and the developers and writers clearly wanted you to know that because she beat up a lot of main characters. She killed off 2 legacy characters, right? Baraka and Mileena, and then she even beat up Hanzo. So she's very powerful, a very strong character. The only ones to actually beat her were Cassie Cage and Raiden, both of which are very powerful. Which is why I could definitely see D'Vorah returning in Mortal Kombat 11, and I think she'd be a good fit because her move style was also very unique. And that's sadly about it for this row. Trust me, it breaks my heart too. I would love to see Ferritor come back, but I just don't see them wasting a slot on him, her, them, right? It's 2 characters technically. I don't see them using that character instead of a new character or returning legacy character. And the same could also be said for Kung Jin. I like what they tried to do. They wanted to make the next Shaolin fighter, but I just don't think he resonated with very many people. I guess what I'm saying is they'd much rather play as Liu Kang or Kung Lao than Kung Jin, so I don't see him returning. And are there any other new characters that I'm missing? I can't seem to think of any. I hope I'm not forgetting them, but if I am, that might just reflect how unimportant they were to the story or just fan reception in general, because I can't think of them. But there you go everyone, that about summarizes my predictions for the Mortal Kombat 11 roster. Please tell me who you want to see in the game down below in the comments section. I'd very much love to read about that. And while you're down there, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell. That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.